On today's episode of The Franchise, March 28th, I'm going to be giving out my top 50 MLB players before the start of the 2023 MLB season. The opening day is 2 days away. It starts on Thursday. So, going to give out my top 50 players. Tomorrow's episode, we're going to do a little bit of an MLB preview. Let me just adjust the camera real quick. Okay. Before we get into the episode, Franchise available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and thefranchisepodcast.net are all in the description of every single episode. So whether you're watching or listening, check the description to find all of the platforms where you can find some content. So, top 50 players. I think my list is, it's my personal list, so obviously I think it's the best. But in terms of other lists that I've seen, whether it's top 100, top 50 players over the last few months, I think mine's the best. I think ESPN has the worst list, by the way. All right, number 50, the 50th ranked player, in my opinion, is Jeff McNeil from the New York Mets. Last season was the National League batting champion with the Mets. He's an elite contact hitter in the game from the left side of the plate. Last season, 326 batting average, led the National League. 382 on base percentage with a 454 slugging. 836 OPS, 143 WRC plus, 99th percentile in strikeout rate, 91st in whiff, and 95th in outs above average. All of those are elite percentile rankings. He doesn't strike out, he doesn't swing and miss, and he plays a really, really nice second base defense. This season with the Mets, a team that's looking to be a team that's going to go out there and compete for a World Series title this year, whether he's batting at the top or the bottom of the lineup, whether he's hitting leadoff or the 7, 8, or 9 hole, he's going to be productive. He's going to get on base. He's going to be able to drive in runs. And then, like I said, he's going to play a great defensive second base. Number 49, I have Framber Valdez, the left-handed starter from the Houston Astros. He's one of the most efficient and best ground ball pitchers in the game. Last season had a negative 3.6 launch angle, meaning most of his balls in play were on the ground. And with an elite defense of Altuve, Bregman, Jeremy Pena, and now adding Jose Abreu behind him, he's able to really limit the runners on base and also, the runs that ultimately get driven in. 2.82 ERA last season and 201 innings pitched, 194 strikeouts, a 1.16 whip, 3.06 fielding independent pitching, 8.1 walk rate with a 23.5 strikeout percentage last season. Whether he's the number 1 or number 2 in the rotation for the Astros, he's going to have a great season. He has a great team behind him, whether it's the lineup or defensively, and he's an elite pitcher. Number 48, Kyle Schwarber, outfielder / DH from the Phillies. In my opinion, he's a top 5 power hitter in the game of baseball. You might say top 10. He's definitely top 10, top 5 power hitter in the sport, especially from the left-handed side. 99th percentile in exit velocity, hard hit rate, and barrel percentage last season. 94th percentile in walk rate. 46 homers, a 218 average, 323 on base, 504 slugging with a 128 weighted runs created plus. He is an absolute threat at the plate, and he's been batting leadoff last season for the Phillies. He's probably going to slide down to the number 2, maybe even the number 3 slot in that lineup for Philadelphia. He's going to drive in lots of runs. With Trey Turner batting ahead of him, and Trey Turner's likely to get on base, Schwarber is bound to hit 40-plus homers, drive in 100-plus RBIs. He's not going to hit for average, right? He is a power hitter. He's a strikeout, walk, home run type of player, but his bat is absolutely elite. He hits the ball as hard as anybody else in the sport, and he's going to hit. He has 50 homer power, and his defense is very bad out there in the outfield, but his bat is just way too good to keep him out of the top 50. Number 47, this is the reigning National League Rookie of the Year, Michael Harris II from the Atlanta Braves, the center fielder. I think he has superstar potential. I think he's a guy that you could potentially say in 2-3 seasons is up there with Julio Rodriguez, Byron Buxton, maybe even Mike Trout at that point, of the top center fielders in the game. I already think he's probably the 4th best or maybe even 5th best center fielder right now in Major League Baseball, but I'm thinking in 2-3 years, you could say Michael Harris II is up there as a top 3 or competing with a few guys for the number 1 spot. Last season, his rookie season, 19 homers, 20 stolen bases, almost had a 2020 season. 297 average, 339 on base, 514 slugging, 853 OPS, 136 WRC plus, 95th percentile in arm strength, 92nd in outs above average, and 95th percentile in sprint speed. He's a real 5-tool player. He has some raw power to tap into. He has elite contact and bat to ball skills. He plays elite outfield defense. He has an elite arm, and he's one of the fastest players in Major League Baseball. So a true 5-tool player. I think his potential is superstar, multiple-time All-Star, All-MLB type player. I don't think he could ever really win an MVP, but I mean, who knows? Maybe he does win some at some point. So he's number 47. Number 46 is Bo Bichette from the Blue Jays, their shortstop. He's one of the best hitting shortstops, just one of the best hitters in the game. Over the last 2 seasons, he led the American League in hits both of those times. So he's led the American League in hits over the last 2 seasons. 24 homers last season, 290 batting average, 333 on base, 469 slugging, and 802 OPS, 129 WRC plus. An elite hitter, possesses power and contact and on-base ability. He is just a horrible defender. I think he's the worst defensive shortstop in the game. His outs above average, his defensive runs saved, his errors are just all towards the bottom of the league. Horrible defender, but his bat is so good, and his potential as a hitter, I mean, he can get so much better as a hitter. He could hit a 30, 35 homers potentially at some point in his career, which would push him to be one of the best shortstops and best players in the game. Number 45, I do have Matt Olson. I think he's going to be one of these players that you see this year benefit a lot from the shift being banned. Last season, 34 homers, 103 RBIs, 240 batting average, 325 on base, 437 slugging, 802 OPS, 120 WRC plus. To go along with his insanely elite power bat, he's probably the best defensive first baseman in the game. I believe he won the Gold Glove last season in the National League. 82nd percentile and outs above average last season. Absolute elite defender at first base, and he has power that could hit 40 homers a season. With the shift being banned, you're looking at his average possibly jumping up from 240. Maybe he could hit 260. I think in 2021 with Oakland, he hit above 260, I believe it was, and then he got traded to the Braves, kind of came back down. But he's still an elite hitter, an elite defender, one of the best first basemen in the game. Number 44, Wander Franco from the Tampa Bay Rays. He's only played in his career 153 games. So you could make the argument, and it's definitely there, that he shouldn't belong on one of these lists because of his career playing time. He hasn't played a full season yet in his career. But in his career, 13 homers, 282 average, 337 on base, 439 slugging with a 776 OPS, 116 WRC plus. The reason he's on this list is because his skill set, his potential is a top 5 player in the sport. He does not strike out. He hits for contact. He hits for power. He possesses some above average defense at shortstop, has some speed, has a nice arm. He has the potential to be one of the best players in the sport. It's just a matter of, will he be on the field? Last season dealt with some injuries. 2021 was his rookie year. I think this year, if he plays a full season, 140 games, he can hit 20, 25 homers, steal 20, 25 bases, hit 300 plus. Has the potential to be one of the best players in the sport. I have him at number 43 despite him not playing a full season yet in his career. Number 43, Will Smith from the Dodgers. One of the best hitting catchers in the sport. Now, his defense is pretty average, 47th percentile framing, 79th percentile in pop time. But as a hitter, he's one of the best hitters at that catching position. 24 homers, 260 average, 343 on base with a 465 slugging, 808 OPS, 127 WRC plus, 90th percentile in terms of chase rate. He hasn't really taken the jump in terms of tapping into his power. He's a guy that could hit 30 to 35 homers in his best season. We haven't seen him take that jump yet. Maybe 2023 is the year for him to do that. The Dodgers do have Diego Cartaya, their top catching prospect, in their system coming up. He could be a guy that at some point, if Will Smith doesn't, he's still a great player, but if he doesn't take another step or if he kind of falls back, you could be looking at Will Smith possibly losing some time. I don't really think so. But Will Smith is an elite hitter at that catching position. His defense does kind of hold him back. But like I said, an elite hitter. Has potential to hit 30 homers. We'll just see if he can tap into that this season. Number 42, Byron Buxton from the Minnesota Twins. Last season, 28 home runs, 224 average, 306 on base percentage, a 526 slugging with an 832 OPS, 136 WRC plus, 97th percentile barrel percentage, 97th average exit velocity, 96th in X slugging, 91st in arm. It's basically been the same story for Byron Buxton his entire career. Can he stay healthy? Can he stay on the field? Because when he has, especially over the last 2 seasons, when he's on the field, he has potential to be an MVP type player. Last season, and I think it was in 2021 as well, if he just stayed on the field, he could have won an MVP. He could have made the case if he kept up that production when healthy. This season, we'll see how many games he plays. I still think he's going to be great in however many games he plays. If he can play 120, 130 games, he's going to be an absolute stud. I think no matter how many games he plays, he'll be great. It's just a matter of, can he stay healthy? Can he stay on the field? And for how long can he do that? Number 41, I have Max Fried from the Atlanta Braves. They're a left-handed stud. Last season, a 2.48 ERA and 185 innings pitched, 170 strikeouts, a 1.01 whip, 2.70 FIP, 91%, 91st percentile in chase rate, 94th percentile in barrel rate. This guy, despite his fastball not being at an elite velocity, like high 90s, and him not having a lot of spin on his fastball, he's found a way to dominate and be an absolute elite pitcher. I think he's one of the best left-handed pitchers in the game. Obviously, I have him as a top 50 player, so I obviously think he's one of the best pitchers. And in terms of lefties, I think there's only one other lefty ahead of him on this list. He's an absolute stud. He's a guy that I could see winning, a Cy Young at some point in his career. So he's at number 41. Number 40 is actually his teammate, Spencer Strider. Finished second in Rookie of the Year last season in the National League. This guy has potential to be like the best pitcher in the world. 2.67 ERA, 202 strikeouts, 131 innings pitched, .99 WHIP, with a 1.83 FIP. His fastball sits at 97 miles an hour. Opponents had a 1.79 batting average last season. That's top 3% in the league. X slugging was at 2.79. That's top 4%. He had a strikeout percentage of 38.3. That's top 1% in the league. He is an elite pitcher, and he strikes guys out like no one else in Major League Baseball. I think a really comparable comp for him, which is, this is arguably one of the best pitchers of all time, is Jacob deGrom. I think Spencer Strider has Jacob deGrom potential. I'm talking an elite fastball that can sit 97 to 100 miles an hour with an elite secondary pitch. I think Strider throws a slider that is absolutely devastating, just like Jacob deGrom. He's going to strike a lot of guys out, low ERA, low WHIP, low FIP, and he's going to be top in all of these strikeouts, all of opponent batting averages. He has the potential to be the best pitcher in the world. I truly believe that. This season, second year in the MLB, how will he adjust to the hitters kind of adjusting to him? Because, you look at second year, third year pitchers, at some point the hitters start to kind of figure you out. So it's going to be adjustments for Spencer Strider. Will he add a third pitch? Will he add a changeup, a cutter, a curveball, maybe a sinker, a splitter? If he adds a splitter, he's probably the best pitcher ever. But Spencer Strider, number 40, ranked player for me this season. Number 39, Xander Bogaerts of the San Diego Padres, formerly a Boston Red Sox. 15 homers last season with a 307 average, 377 on base percentage, 456 slugging, 833 OPS, 134 WRC plus, 88th percentile in outs above average last season. Signed that 11-year deal with San Diego in the offseason. I think there will be a little bit of adjustment period for him. He's going from Fenway Park, which is one of the more hitter-friendly ballparks in Major League Baseball, to San Diego, which is more of a pitcher's park. I still think he'll be great. He's going to be a guy that hits 300, could tap into 15 to 20 homers. And his defense improved last season. He hasn't been known as a great defender throughout his career, and he definitely wasn't a great defender. He wasn't a Gold Glove defender or an elite defender last season, but he was a above-average defender at that shortstop position last season. How long will he stick at shortstop? I mean, he's 30, 31 years old, 11-year deal. How long can he stay at shortstop? I mean, maybe 3-4 more seasons. I mean, if I was the Padres, first of all, I wouldn't have spent that money on Xander Bogaerts. I'd play Tatis at short. I think he's a better shortstop than outfielder. You go spend your money elsewhere. But they signed Bogaerts. That's not the topic of the video. Bogaerts has been a great player throughout the last 5 seasons of his career. Constant 300 hitter, one of the best hitting shortstops in the game. Adjustments in San Diego there might be a period of the first month and a half where he's really adjusting to the new ballpark. But I think by season's end, we'll still be looking at him as the same player he was in Boston. And in San Diego with Machado, Soto, Tatis, Cronenworth, Kim. He's going to be flourishing in that environment. Number 38, Adley Rutschman from the Baltimore Orioles. He is the second best catcher in baseball. There is only one other guy at that catcher position ahead of him on this list. We'll get to him shortly. Adley Rutschman, number 38, he has potential to take the throne of the best catcher in baseball by season's end. I think he has potential to be a top 20, 15 player in the game. Switch hitter, 13 homers last season, 254 average, 362 on base, 455 slugging with an 807 OPS, 137 WRC plus, 84th percentile in frame rate, 79th percentile pop time, 96th percentile walk rate. Elite defensive catcher, elite at framing, elite at his pop time. I mean, his pop time's not super high level, but compared to some of the other catchers in baseball, it's like above average pop time. He walks. He has potential to hit 25 home runs from both sides of the plate. Adley Rutschman, I think by season's end, will be the best catcher in Major League Baseball. And he was only a rookie last season. Number 37, Brandon Woodruff from the Milwaukee Brewers. Last season, compared to his 2021, wasn't, as dominant of a pitcher. He dealt with some issues last season. I believe at one point he couldn't really feel the baseball in his hands. But coming into 2023, I think he's going to be back to his old self, absolutely dominating his opponents. 3.05 ERA last season, 153 innings pitched, 190 strikeouts, 1.07 WHIP, 3.08 FIP, 89th percentile strikeout percentage. Number 36 is Pete Alonso, an absolute beast at the plate. Top 5 power hitter in the sport from that right-handed side, 98th percentile max exit velocity. Last season, 40 home runs, 271 average, 352 on base, 518 slugging, 870 OPS, 143 WRC plus, and 131 RBIs last season for Pete Alonso. His defense is arguably the worst at that first base position in the game, but his elite bat, keeps him super high up on this list. I mean, he is a guy that could potentially put a season together where he can win an MVP. His bat is so elite. He could hit 50 homers, hit 130 plus RBIs, going to hit 270 or better. I look for him to have an absolutely amazing season this year. Probably going to be an all-star. I think he could be a potential MVP dark horse. His defense sucks, but I mean, his bat is way, way, way too good to keep out of this top 50. He comes in at number 36. Number 35, is Kyle Tucker from the Astros. I didn't realize how good of a stolen base threat or a base runner Kyle Tucker is. He stole 25 bases last season. I mean, I had no idea he was that good on the base path. 30 homers, like I said, 25 stolen bases, a 257 average, 330 on base, 478 slugging, 808 OPS, 129 WRC plus, 89th percentile, outs above average, K percentage at 85th percentile. He's a great hitter. Possesses a lot of power. Obviously possessing some speed. Plays great right field defense. Doesn't strike out particularly a lot. He's actually, I think he's one of the most underrated players in the sport. I mean, obviously I have him in my top 50, but I think a lot of people kind of forget how good he is. And when it comes to that Houston team, you always think of Yordan Alvarez, you think of Altuve and Bregman, and now you think of Jeremy Pena because he just won his World Series MVP, and obviously Jose Abreu. But Kyle Tucker is one of the best players on that Houston squad. And for me, he's number 35 ranked player in Major League Baseball. Number 34, might be a surprising one here, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. from the Blue Jays. 32 home runs last season, 274 average, 339 on base, 480 slugging, 819 OPS with a 132 WRC plus. Compared to his 2021, he did have a down season. 2021 finished second in MVP. I think he hit 40-plus homers, hit 300. All of his stats were up a few notches. But he didn't really have a bad season. He didn't have was he as productive as he was in 2021 where he finished second in MVP? Definitely not. He wasn't that level of a player. But these numbers he put up are still elite level numbers in basically every single category, right? 32 home runs, 339 on base, 819 OPS. Obviously, he can be way better than that. I think he's a 50 homer type of player, a 300 average type player, a 900 OPS, a WRC plus of maybe 160 plus. So Vladdy has potential to be a way better player. He wasn't that bad last season. A lot of people just want to say that because comparing his 21 to 22, he had a down season, but still a great player. I still think he has potential. I mean, obviously he has potential to bump up his numbers and hit 50 homers and channel back to his old self. I do have him at 34. I just think all of these guys above him, as we'll get to it, the way I was looking at it is, would I rather have this player or Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? And it's not just all about the hitting. There's some pitchers above him, and there's some guys that, are better defenders, better overall players than Vladdy. He's number 34. 33, reigning American League Cy Young, new member of the New York Mets, Justin Verlander, 41 years old, 1.75 ERA last season, 175 innings pitched, 185 strikeouts, a .83 whip. His fastball sitting at 95 miles an hour, 2.49 FIP. Absolutely dominant season last year. Signed a 2-year deal with the Mets in the offseason. Might have been a 3-year deal with the Mets. We'll see what he can do. He's 41 years old. He's 2 years now removed from Tommy John surgery, so that could lengthen his career because a lot of guys that get TJ now, they're kind of like, it's kind of having a brand new fresh arm. So Verlander, 41 years old. Will he be able to replicate what he did last season? I don't think he'll be that good. I still think he'll be an elite pitcher, probably a low 2 ERA type guy. We'll see how many innings he throws, though, because he is also older. There could be some things that happen, whether it's a shoulder, another arm, a forearm, lats. There's a lot of possible injuries, especially up there in age. But for me, number 33, best player in Major League Baseball. Number 32, Zach Wheeler from the Phillies, 2.82 ERA, 153 innings pitched, 163 strikeouts, 1.04 whip, 2.89 FIP. Down year for him during the regular season from 2022 compared to 2021. But what he did in the postseason for that Phillies team that went on the run to the World Series, he really dominated in the postseason. So I think he'll be back dominating in 2023. One of the high strikeout pitchers in the game when he's really out there throwing a lot of innings and not missing time. Number 32 for me. Number 31, Rafael Devers from the Red Sox, third baseman. 27 homers last season, 295 batting average, 358 on base, 521 slugging, 879 OPS, WRC plus at 140. Horrible defender at third base. I think long-term projects to be a DH first baseman. But for now and for the next few seasons, he will be playing third base for the Red Sox. Absolute elite hitter. I mean, this guy's one of the best hitters in the game, especially one of the best young hitters in the game. I think he has MVP potential. I think he has top 15 player in the sport potential. He'll never be like the best third baseman because of his defense being so poor. But if he moves to first base at some point in his career, he will be the best first baseman based off of his power numbers. Number 30, Carlos Rodon from the Yankees last season with the Giants, 2.88 ERA, and 178 innings pitched, 237 strikeouts, 1.03 whip. Opponents had an X batting average of 190. That's top 10% in the league, and he had a 2.25 FIP. Going to the Yankees, I think he's going to be great. I think he'll be just as good as he was last season. And if I'm correct, I think I have him as the best left-handed pitcher in Major League Baseball. Yeah, I do. So I have Carlos Rodon as the best left-handed starter in the game of baseball. Top 29. Number 29, I have Francisco Lindor from the Mets. 98th percentile last season, outs above average. 26 homers, 16 stolen bases, 270 average, 339 on base, 449 slugging, 788 OPS, 127 WRC plus. He's slowly improved every single season he's been a member of the Mets. He's slowly channeling back into what he was earlier with the Cleveland Indians. An elite defensive shortstop, has great power from both sides of the plate. He's one of my favorite players in the sport. I think he's going to have a great season this year for the Mets. Number 28, another Phillies starter. This one's Aaron Nola. 3.25 ERA and 205 innings pitched, 235 strikeouts last season with a .96 whip, 90th percentile chase rate, 99th percentile walk rate, 2.58 FIP, and his 3.6 walk rate was top 1% in the league. Elite pitcher, strikes a lot of guys out, doesn't give up a lot of walks. This season, I think he's on a potential Cy Young quest, and he's also going to be a free agent at the end of the season. Number 27, Max Scherzer from the Mets, 40 years old this season. 2.29 ERA and 149 innings pitched, 173 strikeouts with a .91 whip, 96th percentile in walk rate, 90th percentile in chase rate, 2.62 FIP. Him being turning 40 years old this season does not diminish the fact that he is one of the best pitchers in baseball. I think right now, when I look at this list, I have him as the fourth or fifth best pitcher in baseball right now at the age of 40. He's still a guy that could potentially win a Cy Young. He's still an elite pitcher, one of the best pitchers in the game, strikes guys out. Last season did miss a few weeks with an injury, but if he stays healthy, he's going to be as good as he's been for the last 10 years of his career. Number 26 is Alex Bregman from the Houston Astros. 2021, he had a very poor season at the plate. But last season, 2022, he absolutely channeled back to the player that he was expected to be when he got drafted. 23 homers, 259 average, 336 on base, 454 slugging, 820 OPS, 136 WRC plus, 99th percentile in chase, 96th in strikeouts, 94th in whiff, 94th in outs above average. He doesn't swing and miss. He doesn't strike out. He plays elite third base defense, and he's one of the better, more underrated hitters in Major League Baseball. I think he's a truly underrated player. He's going to terrorize the Angels the whole season, but he's an absolute stud. Number 25, I have another third baseman. I have Austin Riley from the Atlanta Braves. Riley's defense is worse, significantly worse than Alex Bregman. So, there is an argument for Bregman to be a better player or ranked higher up than Austin Riley. But for me, Austin Riley's bat is so good. He could have won an MVP last season. Who won the NL MVP last year? Paul Goldschmidt. Austin Riley arguably was in that conversation to win an MVP at one point last year. 38 homers, 93 RBIs, 273 average, 349 on base, a 528 slugging, 877 OPS, 142 WRC plus. Now his defense ranked 5th in outs above average. That's horrible. You want to be higher up. 5th percentile is way down there in the bottom. But his offense is elite. He's a 40 homer type of guy. Maybe long term, maybe plays first base or a DH. But the Braves already have first base locked up with Matt Olson. So I think you can get away with Riley's defense being that poor when his offense is among the best in the league. So that's the only reason I would have Riley above Bregman, is because at the plate, Riley's more of a power threat, and even more of a contact threat. Riley hit 270 last year compared to Bregman's 250. So I give the edge to Riley over Bregman based off of his pure power numbers. Number 24. This is where I have the number 1 catcher in baseball ranked. This is JT Realmuto from the Philadelphia Phillies. I still think he's the best catcher in baseball. Some people want to already crown Adley Rutschman as the best. I think at some point he will be the best, right? But right now, it's JT Realmuto. 22 homers, 21 stolen bases. He's a 20-20 threat as a catcher. 276 average, 342 on base, 478 slugging, 820 OPS, 128 WRC plus. Elite hitting stats from the catcher position. 100th percentile in pop time, 61st percentile in frame rate, 86th in sprint speed. Elite defense, elite at throwing runners out. Overall, the best catcher in Major League Baseball. No doubt about it. Number 23. This is Corey Seager from the Texas Rangers. He had the most homers by any shortstop in the game last season. He hit 33 home runs, 245 average, 455 slugging, 722 OPS. 86th percentile, out above average. His defense is, okay. At some point in his career, he will be playing third base for the Rangers, but his bat is so good. He could hit 40 homers as a shortstop, which, if he does that, he's going to bump up and maybe even pass a guy like a Carlos Correa and potentially a Trey Turner, because, Trey Turner doesn't have the best defense at shortstop, and I have him way higher up on this list. And Correa, he's actually not too far away from Corey Seager right now on my rankings. So, Corey Seager, number 23. Number 22 is Jose Altuve from the Astros. Unfortunately for him, he'll be missing the first few weeks of the season with a broken thumb. 28 home runs last season, 18 stolen bases, 300 batting average, a 164 WRC plus, and a 920 OPS. Absolute elite stuff from Jose Altuve last season, and he also does not strike out a lot, especially last season. Didn't strike out that much at all. Number 21. This is the 4th best pitcher in Major League Baseball. I have Garrett Cole from the Yankees. 92nd percentile in whiff rate, 3.50 ERA, 200 innings pitched, 257 strikeouts. The ace of the New York Yankees. Since he's been there, he's been absolutely great. He has been prone to give up the home run ball a little bit too much. Still a dominant pitcher, one of the best pitchers in the world. Garrett Cole, number 21. Entering the top 20, I have Bryce Harper from the Phillies. He probably won't play much this season. If anything, he won't come back till August with Tommy John. Maybe comes back in July. But last year, 18 homers, 286 average. He missed a lot of time with injury last season, but you look at what he did in the postseason, NLCS, World Series, he is absolute elite at the plate. So he's still top 20 for me, despite him most likely missing half or more than half of the season. All right, number 19, Carlos Correa. On my top 10 shortstops, I ranked him as the best. But because of the WBC, I put Trey Turner above him. So Carlos Correa drops to the second best shortstop in the game for me. He's still an elite player. Probably has the best defense of any shortstop in the game to go along with great power and great average. He's just a great hitter and provides some great defense with an elite arm at that shortstop position. Number 18, Julio Rodriguez, reigning American League Rookie of the Year from the Seattle Mariners. 28 homers, 25 stolen bases last season, 284 average, 509 slugging with an 854 OPS, 98th percentile, sprint, 96th arm, 95th outs above average. He's a true, like he's like the definition of a 5-tool player. He's going to hit 30 homers this season. He might steal 30 bases. He's going to hit 300. He's going to have elite outfield defense and elite arm in center field, and he's one of the fastest players in Major League Baseball. Number 17. Now, this I definitely think there's room for an argument here, and there's definitely going to be some controversy about this pick. And I've noticed, you might have noticed, I've been putting a few guys on this list that might be the same position or might have the same skill set, and I put some guys above or below other guys. Number 17, I have Ronald Acuna Jr. from the Braves. When you look at these guys' their 2 seasons last year, Julio easily had a better season than Ronald Acuna Jr. But Acuna came back from his ACL injury, right? He still had a decent season, 15 homers, 295 average, 29 stolen bases, 266 average, 351 on base, 413 slugging, of 114 WRC plus. His defense in right field is not as good as Julio's defense at any outfield position, right? But Acuna's bat is at the same level, power and contact-wise, as Julio's. His speed is roughly similar. His arm strength is arguably way better than Julio's. So Acuna might have 4 out of the 5 things that J-Rod has. So for me, Acuna, I think he's going to have a bounce-back season. He could potentially win an MVP this year. I just think, I think in terms of what they're going to do this season, I think Acuna is chasing an MVP. I think Julio is probably a year away from an MVP because you're still trying to fight against Shohei Ohtani in the American League. Number 16, this is the National League Cy Young, Sandy Alcantara. I have him as the 3rd best pitcher in the game. 2.28 ERA last season, 228 innings pitched, 207 strikeouts, .98 WHIP, 2.99 FIP. His fastball sits at 99 miles an hour, roughly. Has an elite stuff, elite spin rate. Strikes a lot of guys out. Unfortunately for him, he's on a Marlins team that's probably going to be really, really bad. But he's one of the best pitchers. I have him as the 3rd best in baseball. Absolutely dominating guy to face every 5 days. All right, number 15. This is the 2nd best pitcher in baseball. Might be a surprise to some people, but I'll explain why I have him here. That is Jacob deGrom. Last season, in 11 games, 3.08 ERA, 64 innings pitched, 102 strikeouts, .75 WHIP, 2.13 FIP. Over his last 3 seasons, deGrom's pitched 224 innings. So he's not been able to stay on the field. He's not been healthy over the last 3 seasons. So for deGrom, signing a 5-year deal at the age of 34 with the Rangers, first of all, for the Rangers standpoint, it's a good and a bad deal. It could be really good, and it can also be really bad at the same time. deGrom, if he can stay on the field and give the Rangers 20 starts this season, it's going to be great. Because last season, he was 100th percentile strikeout percentage, 99th in walk rate, whiff percentage, chase rate, velocity, 97th percentile in spin rate. So he's an elite pitcher. I think if he's on the field and healthy, he's probably the best pitcher in the game. But you can't count on him being healthy because over the last 3 seasons, he's only pitched 224 innings pitched, which is pretty low. But when he's on the field and he's healthy and he's pitching, he might be the best pitcher on the planet. All right, top 14 now. Number 14, Paul Goldschmidt, reigning National League MVP, I have him as the second best first baseman in Major League Baseball. 35 homers, 115 RBIs, 317 average, 404 on base, 578 slugging, 982 OPS, 177 WRC plus. I only have him here. The next guy is Freddie Freeman. So number 13 is Freddie Freeman, 21 homers, 325 average, 407 on base, 511 slugging, 918 OPS, 157 WRC plus, 90th percentile in strikeout percentage, walk percentage, 100th percentile in X batting average. So in terms of Paul Goldschmidt and Freddie Freeman, I know Goldschmidt just won the MVP, but I think Freeman's a better player. I'd rather have Freeman on my team if I was building a team and I could choose any player at any position. I would choose Freddie Freeman over Paul Goldschmidt. I think Freeman, as a left-handed hitter, hits for a little bit of a higher average. He might not have, he only hit 21 homers last season, but he can easily hit 30 in a season. Plays better defense at first than Paul Goldschmidt. And he strikes out less, and he walks more than Goldie. So those are 14 and 13. Number 12 is the best pitcher in baseball for me, Corbin Burnes from the Brewers. 2.94 ERA, 202 innings pitched, 243 strikeouts, .97 whip, 3.14 FIP, 95th percentile whiff rate, 99th percentile in spin rate. His cutter, I think it sits at 97 miles an hour. He's a dominant pitcher on the mound, and the reason I have him above Jacob deGrom is because he is healthy for a full season. He gave you 202 innings pitched last season to Jacob deGrom's 64. Corbin Burnes threw 202 innings last season. Over the last 3 years, deGrom's threw 224. So we basically seen the 3 years of deGrom has basically been one season of Corbin Burnes in terms of innings pitched. Obviously, over when deGrom's fully healthy, lower ERA, higher strikeout, might be a better pitcher. But right now, I think Burnes is better because he's healthy, he's available, he has one of the best spin rates and best pitches with his cutter in the game. All right, number 11, just missing out on the top 10. I do have Jose Ramirez from the Cleveland Guardians. 29 homers, 126 RBIs, 20 stolen bases, 280 average, 355 on base, 514 slugging, 869 OPS, 139 WRC plus. For J-Ram, he is a contact power, stolen base threat, plays a decent third base defense. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the game. I think he's a real MVP candidate potentially this season. There's a lot of guys that could win an MVP. Obviously, it's going to be hard in the American League competing against Shohei Ohtani, but Jose Ramirez is an absolute stud. It did hurt me to miss him out, put him outside of the top 10. I think you could make the argument for him being a top 10 player, but I have him just missing it at number 11. All right, here is the top 10. And the first one, I didn't want to put him on this list because I didn't put him on any of my top 10 positional lists. But I'm putting Fernando Tatis Jr. as the 10th best player in Major League Baseball. I think if he played last season, didn't get suspended or didn't get injured, he's probably top 5 because when he's playing, he's a top player in the game. But because he didn't play last season, I dropped him down a little bit to number 10. These are his 2021 stats. 42 homers, 25 stolen bases, a 282 average, 611 slugging, 975 OPS, 157 WRC plus, 7.3 WAR, X slugging at 100th in the 100th percentile, barrel in the 99th, sprint speed in the 96th. He's basically a 5-tool player. Probably four tool player. His defense at that shortstop position is not elite, and his defense in the outfield is not elite. He'll be playing right field this season. I think that the Padres, they should be playing him at shortstop. His defense, yes, he made a lot of errors in 2021, and his defense sometimes gets clowned upon, but I think he's a better player at shortstop defensively than he will be in right field. His arm's great, so he'll be great at both spots, but we'll see how he does this season. After missing a full year, had some ups and downs in spring training. I still think he'll be an elite player this season. 40 homers, 20 stolen bases type of guy this season for San Diego. Number 9 is his teammate Juan Soto. Soto kind of dropped a lot because of his poor season last year. in terms of what you expect from Juan Soto. 27 homers, 242 average, 401 on base, 452 slugging, 853 OPS, 145 WRC plus, 3.8 WAR. He walks a lot. He doesn't strike out a lot. He doesn't swing and miss a lot. So he's a very disciplined hitter, arguably one of the better hitters in the game. He just had a down year. You expect him to hit near 300, hit 240, 27 homers. When he got traded to San Diego, he had a very slow time adjusting. I think this year, full time with the Padres, he will channel back to his old self and potentially win an MVP. All right, number 8, Yordan Alvarez from the Houston Astros. I think he's the best. I think he's the best raw hitter in the game. It's either him or Aaron Judge. 100th percentile in the following categories: exit velo, hard hit, barrel percentage, xWOBA, x batting average, x slugging. He hit 37 homers last season with a 306 average, 406 on base, 613 slugging, a 1.019 OPS, 185 WRC plus, and a 6.6 WAR. He had a big homer in the World Series last year to basically win the Astros the championship. He's a guy that I think will win an MVP at some point in his career. If not this year, definitely at some point in his career. He's an absolute stud at the plate. He can hit 50 homers in a season. If everything goes right and he stays healthy, he will hit 50 homers at some point in his career. Number 7, this is where I have the best shortstop in the game. I have Trey Turner. This is the highest I've ever seen him on any list. He's so good. All he's been doing is hitting homers and stealing bases and hitting for average over the last 3 seasons of his career. 21 homers, 100 RBIs, 27 stolen bases last season, 128 WRC plus, 6.8 WAR. He's the fastest player on the planet, basically. His defense is average, but with his bat and his speed and his ability to get on base, it rivals no other player. No other player rivals him at that shortstop position all around. Number 6, Manny Machado from the Padres. I have 3 Padres in the top 10. So San Diego's looking pretty good. 32 homers, 298 average, 152 WRC plus, 7.4 WAR, a 95th percentile outs above average. I think he should have won the MVP last season over Paul Goldschmidt. I think he was better and more impactful and a more valuable player to his team, Manny Machado, than Paul Goldschmidt. But I still think he's a better player than Goldie. Second best third baseman in Major League Baseball for me. Number 5, top 5, Nolan Arenado from the Cardinals. I have him as the best third baseman in the game. 30 homers, 293 average, 151 WRC plus, 7.3 WAR, 97th percentile strikeout rate, 26th in chase rate. So he does, swing and miss and chase a lot of pitches outside of the strike zone. But he is the best defensive player and best defensive third baseman in the game of baseball. Number 4 is Mookie Betts. A lot of people on their rankings have been putting Mookie Betts towards the bottom of the top 10. I think that's horrible. I think that's just crazy to do. Mookie Betts, people want to say Mookie Betts had a down season last year. He had the best season of his career with the Dodgers. Over his time with the Dodgers, last season was his best year of his career. 35 homers, 269 average, a 144 WRC plus, 6.6 WAR, plays elite right field defense, has one of the best arms in right field, contact, speed, power, one of the best players in the world. I still think he's top 5, despite him, I just don't see these reasonings that a lot of people are making about Mookie Betts having down seasons or not channeling what his potential could be. He's still playing elite level baseball. All right, top 3. My top 3 is the same as everybody else. You have Trout, Ohtani, and Judge in the top 3. But where do they rank? Number 3 is Aaron Judge. People are putting Trout here. People say Trout's better than Judge. We'll get to Trout in a second. Judge, arguably the best power hitter in the game next to Yordan Alvarez. 100th percentile in velo, hard hit, xWOBA, xslug, barrel percentage, 99th in x batting average and walk percentage. Hit 62 home runs, an American League record last season, 311 batting average, 425 on base, 686 slugging, 1.111 OPS, 207 WRC plus, and 11.4 WAR last season. Elite right field defense, an elite arm, an elite bat. When he's healthy, this is what he can do. So number 2 is Mike Trout. The reason I have Trout above him is because, well, first of all, Trout's been doing it more consistently than Aaron Judge. And I know Trout's missed, over the last 3 seasons, he's missed a lot of time with injuries. But at 119 games last year, he hit 40 homers. If Trout plays the same amount of games as Aaron Judge, I think Trout chases Judge for that record. Judge might have a better arm than Trout, but I think Trout's still a better base runner, a better hitter, a better contact hitter. I think Trout's still a better all-around player than Aaron Judge. Trout last year, 40 homers, 283 average, 999 OPS in 119 games, 99th percentile X-Slug, 583 X-Slug, top 1%, 418 WOBA, top 1%, 395 X-WOBA, top 1%, 176 WRC plus with a 6.0 WAR. But the number 1 player in the game of baseball, without debate, no question, unanimously, is Shohei Ohtani from the Angels, starting pitcher, DH. If he was just a pitcher, he's on this list in the 20s as a pitcher. If he's just a hitter, he's in the top 15 as just a hitter. But since he does both, and he's elite at both, he is the best player in the sport. 34 homers last season, 11 stolen bases, 273 average, 875 OPS, 142 WRC plus as a hitter, 2.33 ERA, and 160 innings pitched, 219 strikeouts, 1.01 WHIP, 90th percentile in whiff, 94th percentile in chase rate. His xERA, xWOBA is in the 91st percentile, 2.40 WHIP with a 9.6 WAR overall across hitting and pitching last season. He was one of the only players to qualify as a hitter and as a pitcher in the same season. He finished top 4 in Cy Young last season. He finished top 3 in MVP last season. Actually, he finished second in MVP last season. He is the favorite to win the MVP. He's the best player in the sport. He will be getting a $600 million contract in the offseason. He is the face of baseball. Shohei Ohtani is the best player in the MLB. So that is my top 50 players. That took a while to do, almost an hour. But those are my top 50 players. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments, whether it's on YouTube or on any platform. Like I said, we're 2 days away from the start of the MLB season, so tomorrow's episode will be an MLB preview. We'll be back on Wednesday with another episode. Remember, you can find the franchise on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and the website are all in the description of the episode. Like, share, comment, subscribe. See y'all later.